Do you still nurture feelings for your old teenage crush? Feelings you perhaps never had the courage to express back when those emotional rushes were fresh and new. What can you do about it now? Well, one tactic might be to visit them 15 years later with your sinister little murder doll on your arm.
I want to hear about your sex life if you don't mind.
Tell us all about yours then. Everybody likes short stories.
I don't think you're funny.
Well, they do.
We're here to talk about Magic, the 1976 novel from the celebrated author and screenplay writer William Goldman, also known for The Marathon Man and Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Magic was successfully adapted for the big screen in 1978, directed by Richard Attenborough and starring Anthony Hopkins, Burgess Meredith and Ann-Margret. For this, Goldman also adapted his novel for the screenplay. An unsettling story of psychological terror, Magic tells the story of Corky Withers, an unassuming, mild-mannered small-town boy from the Catskills whose dedication to the art of stage magic takes him, against the odds and at a time when such skills are hardly considered top-flight entertainment, to the brink of stardom and recognition, only for things to unravel in the most horrifying manner. Goldman's novel opens with an extract from Police Exhibit D, the journal of Corky Withers' stage partner, which comments on the star's deteriorating mental state. The obvious problem with this is that Corky's stage partner is a ventriloquist dummy, the incorrigible and psychotic Fats. Clearly something is very, very off here. The first part of the book takes the form of a shifting perspective that juggles the continuing narration of this disturbing little doll with what's actually quite a sympathetic and human insight into the world of Corky Withers, poised on the cusp of career success. A little old lady catches Corky crying in a Manhattan art gallery and offers him a little sympathy. In response, Corky offers to taxi her home and even rewards her with a trinket from a local jeweller's. Taken aback, she offers him to come into her apartment for a coffee. She trusts Corky. Why wouldn't she? Not for me to say, quips Corky. Back to Exhibit D, in which Fats has observed Corky toying with this jewellery purchase and gives him the third degree. Coupled with his recently developed migraines, Corky's recent behaviour is giving Fats cause for concern. Now, although Corky hardly seems the type, he's recently realised his innate talent as a pick-up artist. However, in the midst of these casual courtship rituals, he's just picked up a young lady called Fern, who realises that she's seen him on the telly. He is still haunted by one particular ghost of his past, an unrealised school-age love named Peggy Ann Snow, to whom Corky once composed a lovelorn mantra. Peggy Ann Snow, Peggy Ann Snow, please let me follow wherever you go. Curiously, the book includes an Ann-Margret joke at some stage of the dialogue, which makes me wonder if the casting choices might have already been in mind at the time of its writing. Back at his apartment, we witness Corky getting a grilling from Fats about his continuing migraines and about what went down with this girl. If we've not got the picture by now, there's something deeply unhealthy going on in Corky's relationship with his stage prop. However, professionally, they're clearly dynamite together, as becomes evident when we're party to a meeting Corky has with his agent, Ben Green, a grizzled big league showbiz veteran and something of an amateur magician himself. Clearly, Corky is on the verge of the big time. Ben asks Corky to promise against the odds that when his boat comes in, he won't turn shitheel, like almost every other successful entertainer inevitably does. A CBS pilot special for Corky's act is in the offing. This is serious stuff. Just a few formalities to iron out, little things like the medical exam, which is a big problem for Corky, who's evidently very twitchy about letting any medical professional paw at him. We already have some insight into why this is. Corky tries to rationalise this to Ben Green, who's known as the postman. He always delivers. Also, it transpires to Fats. It's a matter of principle, trust, etc. However, this is a non-negotiable with CBS. The postman is mystified. Is Corky afraid of success? Whatever his reasoning, he's about to do a Joe Strummer. From this point in the story, we're catapulted back to the distant past. Corky's childhood back in the Catskills. Corky is the disappointingly unphysical child of a frustrated jock named Mutt. His elder brother is a de facto jock and also an upcoming football prodigy named of Willie. Such are Corky's feelings of inadequacy that he's tempted into writing off to these comic book adverts for the Charles Atlas courses. Of course, these turn out to be a lot more expensive than the initial ads ever indicate, and before long Corky is on the receiving end of some increasingly ominous marketing communications. With nowhere else to turn, Corky confesses his predicament to Mutt, who turns out to be surprisingly sympathetic, advising Corky that not even the FBI have the field representation that these guys claim to have, that Corky was given the brains while his brother was given the brawn. However, this status quo is abruptly upturned on Willie's unexpected death, an event with which Mutt copes by trying to co-opt Corky into a sportsman's role. This, of course, turns out disastrously. Corky finds himself in a hospital ward with broken legs, a situation in which he's got little to pass the time with other than the children's ward's dog-eared decks of cards and a book on amateur magic, penned by the mysterious Merlin, which sets Corky on the course to his life's calling. Besides being the brains of the family, he's also skillful with his hands. Once he's out of the ward and he's established a bit of a name for himself as the classroom magician, Corky is approached by the intimidatingly eye-catching Peggy Ann Snow to put on a bit of show for her little brother's birthday party. Peg's brat of a brother and his mates hardly make for an easy audience, but after some threats of violence on Peg's part, these little bastards are cowed into behaving, and Corky's performance comes off okay. Of course, he's completely smitten by Peg, who maintains a friendly relationship with him while apparently remaining oblivious to Corky's undeclared feelings. So desperate is Corky to remain a feature in her life, he willingly acts as the go-between in the courtship process between her and that year's alpha, Ronnie the Duke Wayne, the go-getter Elvis lookalike whose dad's big in local real estate. It seems that the pairing off between him and the classroom sweetheart is a bit of a given. Corky serves a role as the pair's useful mascot. While he's frustrated and lovelorn, he's sort of flattered to have got the attention of either of them, at least until Mutt manages to get himself sacked from the gym he's working at, and he and Corky have to move town, leaving Peg as much in the young Corky's blood as the magic with which he continues to dedicate himself. He's whittled Peg a wooden heart as a goodbye present, but disappointingly he never gets to present it to her. As a young man, Corky succeeds in tracking down the down-at-heel Merlin, who agrees to school the eager youngster in the game for what it's worth at this age. Magic is clearly not much of an earner, but Merlin is picking up a few bucks out of it at lodge events and such like, until his health starts to fail him. Nursing the ailing Merlin in his fading days, Corky is let into the secret of one particular act which defied any sleight of hand or deception on the artist's part. This was a successful mind-reading experiment between Merlin and his late wife during her dying days. Corky's by now a dedicated master of card tricks, and once Merlin has passed on, Corky strikes out on his own on the amateur nights, only to be confronted with the depressing reality that no matter how much blood, sweat and tears he's put into his preparation, his audiences are largely going to be Philistines who don't give a shit. This situation pushes Corky into a highly compressed mental state in which a combination of overwork and other factors put him into a place in which he's unwittingly left the apartment's gas taps full on, and he's poised to make a premature exit from this narrative until a little voice starts advising him what to do, starting with turning those gas taps off. No prizes for guessing who this little voice is, so there's a teaming up between Corky and his new friend, presumably a neglected prop which Merlin had left kicking around the place. The addition of fats to Corky's act adds an element of comedy and dynamism to what previously had been a competent but undistinguished magic act. Suddenly audiences, almost in spite of themselves, are drawn in by this strange act. We're party to a scene in which the postman, who's now become Corky's agent, presents the incredulous CBS exec Goldstone to Corky's act. Goldstone is at first incensed that the postman would try and sell him an onstage magician, but he's quickly won over by the X-rated interplay between Fats and Corky. Which leads us back to that crisis point in Corky's burgeoning career. After a shouting match with the postman over the phone, Corky packs his bags, naturally including Fats, and rides a yellow cab back out to his Catskills hometown. He bugs the driver an extra $100 to forget he's ever seen him. Fat fucking chance of that. Peg, it turns out, still lives there. She rents out lakeside cabins on the grounds of the home she shares with Duke in what's now become a loveless marriage. Corky clearly has some serious unfinished business here, as his replication of Merlin's mind-reading feat with Peg illustrates. Fats, however, clearly isn't so keen on any of this. Corky might be entertaining thoughts of straightening his head out, but his plans for a future with Peg clearly aren't going to incorporate Fats. And you wouldn't want to make old Fats jealous now. From here, the descent into horror is dark, swift and inevitable. Goldman's work is an enduring masterpiece of suspense which delves into the darker currents of the human psyche. But what I think makes this story so involving is the character of Corky. As a horror story villain, he's a remarkably sympathetic figure. A classic unassuming non-alpha nice guy who's burdened with insecurity alongside a highly overdeveloped self-sabotage mechanism. And he's been saddled by circumstance to carry, if I'm going to borrow a phrase from a whole other franchise, this dark passenger, an alter ego to voice the thoughts and urges that he himself can't contemplate. While the backstory aspect of it is rather clipped within the film itself, the book gives us enough of an insight into his history for us to root for Corky, to hold out the hope that this underdog might somehow straighten all this out in his head, make off into the distance with Peg, leaving a forlorn Duke and an inert Fats in the dust behind him. Even up to the closing pages, you're somehow willing Corky to pull off the impossible and to piss back at the gods.
Stop the postman! God's last fuck! Stop the postman!